I know we got, oh, good, we got just about everybody. I think we're missing one.
Am I
It's
here?
like,
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, I gotta give you something. Me? Yeah, give that.
all righty.
Right.
Where's, oh, Commissioner Starkey's seat is.
Is that it?
All right, we're going to go ahead and call this MPO meeting to order. It's 10:02. I'm going to ask you to all please rise, and City Clerk leads us an invocation and pledge.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence, and grant that we, remembering the account we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and please be seated, and roll call, please.
Councilman Jeff Starkey,
Here.
Mayor Dale Lissette,
Here.
Councilman Lance Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Ron Oakley,
Here.
Commissioner Mike Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey, Commissioner Mike Wells,
Here.
Commissioner Jack Mariano,
Here.
Mayor Camille Hernandez.
Here. Thank you, and Commissioner Starkey is not here with us. Is she on her way? Okay. This time, we're calling for public input. Does anyone in the audience have anything they'd like to address to the board this morning? Seeing none, we go on to the approval of minutes, but they are not available, so I guess we'll have that at our next meeting. Now we're on to the MPO Advisory Committee reports. We'll start off with the CAC meeting, and I believe Ms. Kelly is with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, so I apologize if I start coughing in the middle of all this. It was a brutal one this time, let me tell you. So we want to thank everybody from the Citizens Advisory Council for having your representatives attend. I did talk to a couple of you, and you are going to still fill those slots, so we're excited. We had a really good turnout meeting last time, better than a quorum, and an awesome discussion. We went over the UPWP for 2017-2018 and looked at the TIP amendment address and TMA certifications. Those were our action items, and we did approve both of those. We had a status report from Fdot concerning the tentative work development program that I'm sure Mr. Jones is going to address today. Director Jones is going to address today. And then we did go over the BPAC Advisory Committee's agenda. We did have some congestion management questions, and we worked through those just kind of in a roundtable fashion. And we did get some updates from PCPT, but at the time, Kurt Scheibel was unable to attend. So we're looking forward to getting some really great feedback from him next time. He was interviewing for his position for his right-hand man, so I think he may have gotten to that point. We'll find that out later today, too. Also, we had an excellent presentation about the Howard Franklin Bridge, and really nice and exciting stuff that's happening in the whole entire region. We did talk a little bit about some future agenda topics that we want to discuss, and the Tampa Bay Next, oh my goodness, it went right out of my head, the Transportation Academy finished up on November 3rd. So it is available online. Was really, really informative. I enjoyed taking those. It was a 6-week course. And so if anybody wants to read through them or watch the webinars, you can certainly do that. And at this time, we want to say that the 5456 task force and everything that we're working on that end is got our surveys, and we'll be turning those in over the week. And looking forward to presenting that to you at a future date. So any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Miller?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is the BPAC. I believe Dr. Stovall is going to enlighten us. Good morning.
Good morning. We had a great BPAC meeting on the 24th of October. We did talk a little bit about the Fdot Citizens Academy as well, and it is a great resource, so we can refer people to the Tampa Bay Next webpage to come up to speed on some of that. We had the presentation as well on the tentative work plan, and the Howard Franklin Bridge, new span construction. And the BPAC members really were impressed with that particular plan because it includes a multi-purpose trail as part of the bridge with a physical barrier between the vehicle traffic, motor vehicle traffic, and pedestrians and bicyclists. And so we actually voted to send a letter to Fdot just telling them we were impressed with that plan. We had a good discussion about some safety issues and some innovative intersections, so it was a good meeting. Our next meeting is going to be in Land O'Lakes. We're at the utility building, and we're trying to move our meetings around the county to make ourselves easier for the different members to get to us. So that was our meeting.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Dr. Stovall? Commissioner Mariano?
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up under items as far as the committees coming up, but if we can get the access to when these meetings are going to be through the whole year, how often they meet, because I've got a couple of people I want to look at appointing, so.
Oh, absolutely.
Some details.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Stovall. Appreciate it. Move on to action items. We have 4 action items this morning. The first one is the 2018 calendar. Mr. Casper, good morning.
Good morning, Craig Casper, MPO Manager. This is revisiting an item that you approved last month, bringing back some of the changes you requested. First, confirming the July cancellation as you directed, and then moving 2 meetings. We have 2 choices for 2 meetings. One of them, February, the time that we had originally planned on the schedule. The county administrator has asked that we move the MPO board meeting to account for some legislative items that the county commissioners will be doing. So we would like to suggest either 1 or 2 weeks later, the February 13th or 22nd, whichever works best for you all. And then August, it's trying to decide between August 14th and August 23rd, whatever also works best for you all. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Moore.
I'd recommend the 22nd. The 13th actually is on a Tuesday, and we typically meet at MPO meetings on Thursday. So that would probably,
So February
we're at work for a
22nd.
lot of people's schedule.
All right, so February 22, is that for, let's deal with them individually. That's, any consensus, getting nods? February 22 for the
Okay.
February meeting, and
Thank
what
you.
about the August? There was 2 suggestions there.
I've already got it on my calendar for that date. That's good.
We have what, we have
14 and
Thursday,
23rd.
August 23rd.
I go the later date.
The later date, Thursday, August 23rd?
Yes.
All right. Is that
Thank you
good?
very
Is
much.
that, we need to vote on that?
Please.
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Cass, for bringing that to our attention. Item B is the TIP amendment to address the 2017 Tampa Bay TMA certification. Mr. Casper.
Good morning. As we mentioned last month, we received our certification with 3 corrective actions. 2 of them are addressed in this TIP amendment, plus 1 item from the PCPT's corrective actions is addressed also. We would like a roll call vote to make these approvals. They are not substantive in the amendment. They are more editorial, making sure that we are clear on maintaining fiscal constraint as far as when year of expenditure dollars versus current year dollars.
Are there questions for Mr. Casper on this item before we do the roll call? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we don't need a motion, right? We just go right into the roll call. We need a motion. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Jeff Starkey?
Aye.
Mayor Delmont?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nancy Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Ron Oakley?
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Wells?
Aye.
Commissioner Jack Mariano?
Aye.
Mayor Hernandez?
Aye. Good, so it's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next item is the BPAC members' appointments or reappointments. Good morning.
Good morning, Richard Hartman, MPO Active Transportation Planner. The board had asked at the October 12th meeting regarding reappointments that the BPAC attendance sheet be enhanced following the example set by the CAC committee, and we have done so. You can see that we have added items, including the board representative of the area for each member. We've also added address, phone number, market area. We've also started something we had not been doing until August, was tracking excused absences and unexcused absences, and that is a portion of the bylaws. But the most important item, I believe, was that the board asked staff to reach out and talk to the members that were up for reappointment, especially those that did not have the stellar track record we seek on attendance. I've talked to each of them, and they've all recommitted to be sure that they attend the meetings and stay fully informed and inform staff of when they're not able to attend, so we can track their progress and their interest more closely. And so I've worked with them, and they have all stated their desire to remain on the board and that they will attend the meetings. I think we had a strong turnout, as Randy mentioned. We had a very good turnout at our last BPAC meeting, and one of the things that some of the members who had not been attending mentioned was that they felt that staff had not been fully involving them and keeping them up to date, and that is something that I want to commit to do so. So I request that the board approve the reappointments of the members, the 4 members that are up for reappointment at this time.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Moore.
I'm going to also add to the motion, though, if somebody has 3 unexcused absences, they're gone.
Yes, and that is in the bylaws, 3 unexcused
But we
absences.
need to actually follow that.
Consecutive, yes. Yes, all right. And we will be tracking that and bringing that to the board and to the BPAC's attention. And that's something else that I did point out, what the bylaws state to each of the members that I talked to, that 3 consecutive unexcused absences remove them as a voting member.
A second.
We have questions,
Yeah,
Commissioner
a little
Mariani.
discussion. You know, when we started this committee, I'm not sure exactly how it was going to go as far as like people appointing whatever. Maybe I didn't understand what the process was, but as I look at the list, I see every county commissioner except myself has 2 people on there. So I think it's imperative that I actually have 2 people from my district that actually get on there as well. So I would like to be able to have the option to bring a couple of people back in. I made some phone calls last night. I got a couple of interested people, but I want to make sure I know the calendar. I couldn't tell them exactly when they're going to meet. So if I could get a list of the meetings that are coming up for the next year or 2, what's expected of the people, so I can discuss it with them. I'd like to be able to add 2 of myself from my district.
You don't even have anybody listed on there now.
And again, I didn't know exactly how this thing was set up a couple of years ago, but clearly I see that everyone's got 2 except for myself, and I think it's important to balance it out in the county, so.
So we'll just take it to 13 then.
What's that?
To the,
Take it to 13.
yeah,
it'll
to the
still be a
bylaws,
meeting,
I don't
so-
know what, is there a certain number that?
Yes, 11 is the number given in the bylaws.
Okay. And I know the last, besides the unexcused absences, it was making sure that we had complete representation of the county. So I noticed these are all that are made not necessarily by the board, it's the county commissioners that make the appointments from the districts. Is that how these appointments get made?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so if the bylaws allow it.
So for the people that aren't under a commissioner, I want to be able to bring in my people that I would want to appoint to bring them forward to the board.
Well, one of the issues was that the MPO board, in creating the BPAC, directed staff to assign certain agencies, people representing law enforcement, schools, things of that sort. So they are members at large, so to speak. But that was the MPO board's direction at the initiation of this committee. So you have 11 members, and some of them are there because they represent different agencies.
And maybe what we need to do is switch up the way we actually get this set up, because I don't really necessarily want to take those people off if they want to participate, but maybe they just need to be an ex officio member that can be on this board, and then we do make it, even if it's non-voting, they can still come, but I think to have a commissioner appointing should be a precedence. What's that? Then we need to
That's what I
amend
was
the bylaws.
asking, what the bylaws had. Is there an amendment that needs to be done by
Well,
you to bring it back?
the bylaws don't require the appointment of people from other agencies. One of the things that I might suggest to the board, or that we could come back to the board with, would be what some other BPACs do. They do have a technical support team of people representing different agencies, but they also have people from schools on the board. So they have a broader reach that way, because we have had groups express interest on supporting the BPAC, not necessarily as voting members. We could, right now though, the bylaws do not require representatives from different agencies on there. That was just the MPO board's direction at the time the BPAC was created.
Okay, and again, I'm going to go back to, every commissioner's got 2 representatives except for mine. I was under this standing was kind of a more of just general fill-in, general approval, but it's clearly not the case. So to balance it out in the county, I think it's important that everybody gets 2. Let's go amend the bylaws and then bring it back.
Mayor Hernandez, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
The 11 members that we have on the board, originally when we formed it, we just came up with the number 11. To be odd, we can easily change the bylaws and increase it to 13 if the board desires.
Yeah,
It's not
that
a
makes
big
sense.
deal.
I'm good either way.
So-
All right, so let's make a motion. We'll add 2 more members that,
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
and thank you,
Thank-
Department, and that is, I know they're getting increasingly active with all of the things that are going on in the county, so appreciate that. And I think that'll be great that we have
Great,
those.
thank you very much.
Change the game.
Thank you, sir. Next item is item D. I call it the UPWUP just for ease. Amend the UPWUP fiscal year 2017-18, section 5305 for allocations.
The
Sir.
UPWUP, the Unified Planning Work Program,
That's what they taught me at
identifies.
school, was UPWUP. So-
Exactly. It identifies all the transportation planning projects that are going on in the region by every entity to make sure there is one location where people can go to see, make sure that things aren't being planned that will contradict each other. It also serves as the work program for the staff of the MPO. It identifies work by task for our team. And this is putting in the precise funding amount. We knew the general funding amount coming in, but Fdot has provided us the final carryover from the past, and it breaks it down by year, so money does become stale. The 2014-2015 funds will be spent first, and we'll work with Fdot to make sure those get spent down so that any carryover, we're not in danger of losing the money. We have been banking these funds. We have a big task coming up the next 2 years. It's the update of the long-range plan. That's our biggest item. So this will be spent down. Some of the money already you'll see going out for this. We're funding an inventory of sidewalks with an intern. Transit development plan, we are working with PCPT to do the transit development plan and getting some socioeconomic data for the region. So that's sort of right now the immediate items that these funds will be going for. Are there any questions to this amendment? Oh, also we will be starting the next 2-year UPWP later this spring, and so you'll see a more detailed plan for those funds at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Casper. Are there questions to Mr. Casper on this item? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board? We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and just note, I believe Commissioner Moore has stepped out. Okay. Thank you all. Now move on to status reports. Item A is Fdot District 7 Tentative Work Program Development. And we have,
Good morning.
Good morning,
My
sir.
name is Brian Beatty. I'm with the Florida Department of Transportation. Today, we're going to be giving a presentation on the tentative work program process. Take you back in time a little bit, refresh your memory. What the 5-year work program is just that. It's for 5 years, and we fund things like public transit, seaports, airports, and projects, transportation planning, intelligent transportation systems, engineering and design, and right-of-way acquisition and construction. This work program, the tentative work program, covers the fiscal years 2019 through 2023, from July 1st, 2018, when this tentative will be adopted, through June 30th of 2023. Year one is the year that actually contains budget and funding from the legislature. Years 2 through 5 are more for planning purposes. The department includes projects and our projects and local projects that we're going to participate in. We update all the cost estimates for the new projects we're putting in the program, as well as all the projects that are already in the work program. Those estimates ran a little high this year, but we were able to cover those and essentially keep the work program stable. Other districts weren't quite so fortunate. We're going to add new projects and project phases
to typically the new 5th year, but it could go anywhere in that 5-year period. And we're going to preserve the existing roadway facilities that we have out there to maintain them. The types of projects that you'll find in the tentative work program, which you do have a copy of the Pasco County version in your packet, starts with safety and security type projects. And then there's system preservation, multimodal enhancements, operational improvements. Those are things like median modifications, adding turn lanes, that sort of thing. Capacity improvements is last. Now, what we put in the work program has to be prioritized. And the number one priority list we look at is from the MPOs. And then we also consider the TMA priorities, which also go through this MPO. This board endorses them or doesn't. And thirdly, the TBARTA CCC provides to us the regional transportation priorities. Lastly, the SIS, which is the Strategic Intermodal System. We have a set of priorities that we are managing that DOT program with. New projects. This presentation is going to take you through what we've changed in the work program since last year. This is not meant to be to include all the projects that are in the tentative work program document for Pasco County. It's just the highlights. The new project phases that were added into the program, you've seen them before. They're abbreviated with the abbreviations in parentheses next to the type of phase that it is. We'll also put in projects of interest. We will, all the projects in the tentative work program follow the state fiscal year. And this works pretty good up until around July through September. There's a 3-month gap that we have to be cognizant of because of the MPOs. And they function on the federal fiscal year, and the department uses the state. So it creates a little gap that we have a workaround process in place for. This presentation, again, is just to review changes to the adopted work program. Okay, getting right to it. County Road 54, Wesley Chapel Boulevard, from north of State Road 5456 to north of Magnolia Boulevard. This is a county project. It's an add lanes and reconstruction project, and construction was added in the work program for 2022. State Road 54 at US 41. This is the intersection project, the interim, if you will. That's why we're calling it operational improvements, where, as you know, we're going to extend some turn lanes to make the congestion less from what it is today. It's not the ultimate project that we'll come through there eventually with, but we've added the construction in 2019. Pasco County staff is designing that intersection improvement as we speak, and we'll go out there and build it in 2019. Ridge Road sidewalk gaps. This is a new sidewalk. We added design in 2021 and construction in 2023. Congress Street from Lomond Avenue to County Road 587 Ridge Road, a new sidewalk project with construction added in 2023. Roadway project there, or excuse me, it's more sidewalk. This is Old County Road 54 from State Road 54 to west of Little Road. We added the design for that project in 2022. Those last projects, by the way, were transportation alternatives funded projects. On the highways, State Road 52, Schrader Highway, from east of US 41 to west of State Road 581, Bellamy Brothers. This is a widening project. We successfully fully funded the right-of-way phase in 2023. State Road 54 at US 41. This is the new interchange that is going to go out there. We added right-of-way out in 2023. And we did that because we know it's going to be a significant amount of money, and we are essentially putting a placeholder out there to bank dollars for when that estimate comes in. What do I mean by the estimate? Well, the county is working on a 54-56 vision, and we're waiting for the county to finish up their study and provide a recommended alternative from that, which we will include in our PD&E process, which is on hold temporary right now, pending the county's exercise. I-75-275 from South County Line Road to County Line Road. This is interchange improvements. PD&E was added in 2023. I-75-275 from County Line Road to State Road 56. This is phase 2 of the Diverging Diamond project at that interchange. And what this does essentially is you're familiar with how the northbound I-75 has that long collector distributor roadway, a ramp, if you want to call it that. It's going to be a similar kind of a collector distributor system on the west side of the interstate and help it move along. It complements the Diverging Diamond and makes everything run a lot smoother. We added right-of-way in 2023. US 301 Gall Boulevard from south of State Road 56, proposed location where it comes out at, to south of State Road 39 Paul Buckman Highway. It's an add lanes and reconstruct project. We added some advanced right-of-way in 2020. US 301 from County Road 54 Elam Boulevard to north of Cossack Road. This is an add lanes and reconstruct project as well, and right-of-way was added in 2023. This is the Tampa Bay Regional Transit Project Development, commonly referred to as the Regional Transit Feasibility Plan. This is the plan that HART is actually taking the lead on. It's funded by the department, and they're going to begin to wrap this thing up in January of 2018. They're going to present to the TMA what their study revealed. They're going to reveal the implementation plan for the premium transit that is going to show the most viable segment and mode that they feel will rise to the test of the FTA funding and competitive nature of those federal funds. What we did is we added design in 2019. Design is obviously the next step. Once this group gives us the implementation plan, then we need to start working on it. And that would be designed, and it'll be in 2019. Intelligent transportation systems on State Road 54-56 corridor from Gun Highway to State Road 581 Bruce B. Downs. This calls for advanced traffic management system and laying the fiber optic cable and putting in the smart signals and all that stuff. It originally started on US 19 to Gun Highway, and this is the companion to that project. Design was added in 2020 and construction in 2023. Planning models. All the MPOs in the TMA, that'd be Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough, contribute a little bit of funding to the department to go with our matching funds to pay for transportation regional travel surveys. These enhance the ability of the department to model the transportation situation and forecast the future for the MPOs coming up in their long-range planning activity. I think the last time we did this set of surveys was 10 years ago, so there's been quite a bit of change, and they're very, very necessary, and the MPOs realize that, and they have kicked in a little bit of funding in 2022 and 2023. Those are totals for the Pasco County version of the work program. Gives you kind of a synopsis of the funding aggregate in various pots. Public involvement. We have accomplished the top 3 there. We've had an online public hearing where we put it all out there for a week. And we also held a public meeting at the department in person to basically put out all the maps and everything for the public if they wished to come in and have a conversation with us about it. November 20th, MPO objections are due. The MPO comments are due on November 20th, and your staff will collect those comments from the committees and provide a letter to the department, well, through the chair, to the department by November 20th. Between January and March of 2018, the tentative work program is reviewed by the legislature and the Florida Transportation Commission. They'll hold the public hearings usually somewhere in the center of the state around Orlando. And then on July 1st, the tentative work program is adopted by the Department of Transportation Secretary. This is a website where we held the public hearing, the online public hearing, www.d7wpph.com. I believe that website is still open, and you can go there and view the maps of the different projects and also see you can see an entire version of the tentative work program, all the counties. And you can also put comments there if you chose to. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Other questions? This is not an action item, information. Commissioner Mariano.
Just a couple of questions. You know, when we look at State Road 54, 56 and try to improve the traffic flow, I remember Commissioner Oakley, when you were campaigning, you were talking about 52 is where we really need to expand. And when I look at what's coming up in the project, and I don't know, maybe it's recently, the past couple of months, I've been driving a lot, it seems back and forth on 52 from Polk County all the way over. And I don't care where I go from, let's say, downtown Dade City going across, it gets crowded all the way through. I thought it used to be just the Suncoast to 41 that was jammed, but I see the other segments across the board. Knowing that we're trying to move these things forward rather than putting a whole bunch of money on the 54, 56 issue, do you think it helps if we really kind of focus to getting that done and then see how it plays out?
Well, the department is essentially going to follow the priorities of this board.
I'm taking diverging diamond for a second, so don't think that.
Well, yeah, don't mess with that.
No, I'm not touching that, but I'm just saying,
Those things are
all these other things, so.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking the importance of that. I mean, I see it everywhere across the board.
Sir, you want to?
Can I answer?
Commissioner Oakley.
Some of the issue with 52, State Road 52, when they make that cut and come and meet up with Clinton Avenue, we're already designing the project to go right on straight through that light and then back over to 98 with hopes in the future of 98 to Lakeland being a 4-lane. And it'll be 4-lane all the way. So when you get on 52 and you come around San Ann and come, that's State Road, that will be State Road 52. And that'll all be 4-lane. And then hopefully that 4-lane will continue one day right on to Lakeland. And that gets you through that area.
Right.
So,
And then again, going down, looking at Bellamy coming up, I mean, the flow of the traffic, it's all the way through, so.
well, the traffic right now, and that's because of progress, you're going to have to put up with traffic. And the halt of traveling as easily as you could before because of progress. And that's just there, so.
Okay. Anyone want to talk more about that? But I got a couple of other things too.
Did you want to respond to that at all before?
I was just going to remind the commissioner that we follow the MPO's priorities, and there's been a finance plan put out there for both corridors, 52 and 54, 56, and I'm assuming the board wants to, keep that on track. There is definite need for widening of State Road 52, as you just have explained. It's pretty much congested the entire length. And the department has those projects segmented and lined up in the work program to be completed as soon as possible. So.
I think what Commissioner Mariano is trying to say is let's be proactive, not reactive. Like right now we're being reactive with 54, 56 corridor. Let's go ahead and plan it out ahead of time, right? Is that kind of where you're going?
Well, I'm just, the improvements.
Everything's moving north.
And again, one of the key components at 54 and 41, what's going to happen there is going to be critical depending on how these other studies are being done too. So I don't know how much you can actually plan to what's out there already, to what's going to come up. When I look at this, the next thing I was going to talk about with the lighting system going through, is that found to be really effective? Because I will tell you, coming down Little Road where they do have it, sometimes it works really well and other times it works terrible. So I wonder how effective that value is being spent as opposed to maybe building more lanes on other roads that might be better value.
I don't think I can respond to that. I don't know if Mr. Jones wants to comment on it.
Mr. Jones?
Good morning, Bill Jones, Director of Transportation Development, Fdot. Commissioner, great point. That's part of our holistic approach. We're trying to look at things. We're looking at everything from autonomous vehicle preparation, technology, whether it's the use of adaptive signal controls is somewhat what this is, ITS, land use, capacity and roadway bridge improvements, transit. We see this as a holistic project, so we do find benefit. The cost benefit of some of these is actually a lot higher sometimes than pure capacity. So we try and balance the holistic approach to it. So, but matter of fact, we formed a team, the MIT team we call it, Mobility Innovation Task Team out of District 7, to do exactly that, make sure it's tied into what's the best bang for our buck and tie it all together. But they have been shown to be effective, and that's part of the process, one of the pieces of the pie.
And I'm glad you're touching technology, because I was going to touch that just a little bit too. When you look at technology, sometimes you can go on the phone and put your GIS in. It'll tell you it'll take you X number of time to get to one place to another place. And then if you put it on like 2 hours later when you actually go to the trip, traffic may have changed, and all of a sudden that change may have gone up or down 10, 20 minutes. Are you using that type of technology as well?
We use, yes, we use that. We use Bluetooth technology. Literally, it's not Big Brother because we don't track the person, but if you have a cell phone on your Bluetooth on, we track origin destination to watch the delay, the travel time, the location, and so we do those. If you see some of the sensors we have microwave vehicle detection sensors out there, so we have quite a bit of that, as well as the cameras and other things that we use for that. Yes. And just one quick comment on State Route 52. Agree with you, and then Commissioner Oakley mentioned we're working very diligently with county staff, as a matter of fact, for the Clinton Avenue extension to make sure on the east side and then west, multiple projects lined up for State Route 52's construction. So.
And by the way, they've done a phenomenal job out at 52 and 75. That's really coming along well and looks real good. And I know it connects shortly thereafter.
So you know, Mr. Jones, DOT is actually working along the side of the county right now for right-of-way for that 52 that's coming through. They're working with us on that. We appreciate that help too. So
yes, sir. We partnered with the
good.
county
Yep,
staff.
we partnered up on that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Casper, do you want to?
And two things to follow on. First, the MPO is responsible for doing a CMP congestion management process. And what we have to do is look at all the corridors individually and see what improvements need to be made and how well effective they'll be cost benefited. So we'll be starting that for the next long range plan here in January. So you'll be seeing 54, 52, 41. There's going to be some of our first corridors because they're our biggest problems. Second thing I just want to point out, I was at the statewide MPO meeting when Fdot presented the plan, what's going to happen for their work program. And we are actually very lucky to have District 7. A lot of the MPOs, there is no fifth year getting added. The first year is getting repeated. And in some places, not only is the first year getting repeated, some of the projects within the first year are getting deferred to the second year, which bangs everything else back, and some projects are falling off out of the program in the fifth year. So Fdot did a yeoman's work to make sure that all of our projects stayed in and we are actually able to keep moving stuff forward. So just want to give them some props for that.
Thank you, sir. Are you, Commissioner Moore is on?
On deck.
On deck. There you go, on deck, and then we'll go to Commissioner Wells. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So now, just two things I just want to ask you. 41, the northern portion of 41 before you get to 52, where that stacks up miserably, when are we widening that again? When's the
I think
date?
it's in 2019 or 20.
Yeah, it's next, I thought it's next.
Right, so we're going to start construction in 19? We're going to design before it's begin construction in 19?
I think design is almost all.
Yeah, I thought they were going to start construction this year, 2018. That's a good.
Yeah, fiscal 18.
Yeah.
Well, in July of 18 is 2019.
No, I understand that. Yeah, trust
So
me.
it's
I understand
not
that.
fiscal
Yeah.
18, it's fiscal 19.
19.
So there's a good chance we could start seeing that construction by the end of next year or mid next year.
That comes from.
Right, we
They
have,
usually wait till the last month of the fiscal year, so I'm thinking maybe it's going to be 19.
the project you're referencing is on US 41 from north of Connerton up to State Road 52. That project is planned for construction in 2020, which actually begins that fiscal year in July of 2019.
So it's not fiscal 19 then?
No.
No.
Is there any chance we can get that moved up a little quicker?
Is that from Suncoast to the?
No.
North 41.
Up 41.
We
We look,
Connerton to.
Oh, and I thought
It's
they
a
ran.
small section.
Yeah, back to the 4 lane.
right. Every year, when we begin the update process, one of the first things we do is look at, okay, of the projects that are there now, is there any project phases that we can move forward, we can advance
Right.
before we look at adding new
Right.
projects? So that is a standard practice, and we'll take a look at it next
I
cycle.
guess, so, two more things. The 50, when are we going to start seeing construction on the 54 portion from Curly to Morris Bridge? There's some action going on right now, so I see them doing surveying. They're surveying, and obviously we have the Morris Bridge intersection, which is obviously demolished, raised that building there. But when are we going to start seeing, yes?
It's supposed
Utilities
to, it
now?
will be this
Moving
month.
utilities
It's
right
this
now.
month,
It's
for
this
the
month?
section of 54 from Curly and Morse Bridge.
Yeah.
So they've had to do a lot of utility relocation,
Yeah, okay.
and then they had to take down some trees and
Right.
such.
I
So
know the move. I just
it's
wanted to
starting
know if
now.
they're starting with the dirt for the road. Okay.
It's starting this month.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Last one, this is for some of our audience members too. So I see some people in the audience with the chambers and such. Overpass interchange is very, very important to us. When we talk about what's going on the 54, 56 corridor, the stacking that comes off, as you will agree, right, of 75, and then we're getting the diverging diamond, but we can get overpass interchange done too, that's gonna cure a lot of that. And as the growth continues to happen along there with Connected City, BOPH, and all those, we need to be prepared. So what I will say is that it's one of our legislative priorities, again, to get additional funding to assist with that, which thankfully, our legislative delegation pushed hard for and got all the way to the governor's desk, but it was one of the many things that were vetoed. So the hope is this year that that red pin will stay to the side when it reaches its desk, because I'm confident our delegation is going to push that forward again. But what we'll probably need and ask our community to do is, write letters of support, to the governor once it gets to that point. If we need to, we'll ask you to write letters of support to our legislators too, but I think hopefully they'll be fine again. But that's very, very, very important to the future of our area. And it's not just a Pasco County thing, and I think that's what we need to remember. We need to continually talk to our legislators and the governor about. That's regional, 75, it's really federal too, in actuality. The traffic flowing on 75 is important to the entire state of Florida. It really, really, truly is. So it doesn't only benefit the citizens of Pasco County, it benefits anybody that's moving north and south on 75.
So I would just like to add to that, I think we have left no stone unturned. We've applied for an infra grant through the feds. We've applied for a Tiger grant. We applied for a DEO grant. And then we have this request with the legislature. So we have left nothing undone. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see something from one of those.
So maybe take a moment
grants.
to, if some of the other commissioners or the council people that are on the MPO board, because I'm aware of it, and obviously, the grants that were applied for on the federal side. In addition to the Tiger grant, explain the other two.
Okay, so.
And how much we're looking for too.
Okay, so the DEO request was through the Department of Economic Opportunity. That was through the state.
Right.
And that was for $25 million. And that was coupled with the economic benefit that will be achieved with the completion of that interchange. So we also submitted for the Tiger grant. And that also has an economic component in it as well, and a safety and operational component. And that was for $20 million. So we applied for the max with each of these grants. So the infra grant is Infrastructure for Rebuilding America grant, and that has a freight component as well as an economic development component to it, and that was for $25 million.
So it'd be great to get all of them, but if we can get just one of them.
Get started.
I think, so I'm real hopeful.
What's the project total on that?
68?
68.
So right there, we've got
68
79.
million. Now, we do have obviously some funds, and we're
Yes,
collecting
we do.
funds because part of this, there's developer contributions to this.
Right. We're looking at this as a design-build project which could ultimately save some time in getting this completed. So that was that's how we presented the applications, the grant applications, that this was design build. We're doing a different concept. It would be the first design build of this magnitude that we've done in the county.
It would be nice if we didn't have to go in and take an SFB loan out, because we have to start this construction by
It has to be started by 2020.
2020. That's our federal permit.
Right. That we're required to do that, or else we have to go back and revisit the IGR, and we don't want to do that. No.
So we better put a shovel in the ground by 2020.
We're there. So we're very hopeful.
We all need to throw a hard hat on and grab some shovels.
We've touched on it. We've hit everybody. So we're hopeful. So, yes, support is good from everywhere.
And Commissioner Boer, I think your point is well said. I believe the PEDC also has that as one of their top priorities as well. And I think just getting the word out and continuing whatever opportunity we have to get others to support it. And it is not just Pasco County, but it affects everybody. I think that's well said. We have a couple of people.
I think you just want to respond to that.
Well, I'm going to respond to the fact that we're looking at that interchange and, of course, the diversion diamond. All of that traffic on the interstate was very important. But we also need to keep local traffic off that, which right now we've got a new school over on Old Pasco Road. And Old Pasco runs from 52 to 54, and it's a two-lane road. And it's very important, and some DOT improvements going to happen right at the interchange at 52 and Old Pasco now to about 1,500 feet there. But that entire roadways, we're going to have to keep an eye on it because it's going to get more and more important for local traffic to keep them off the interstate. And that's one of the things I think they require the counties to make sure they try not to use local traffic for interstate, but on side roads, which that road is a parallel. And it's going to be more and more important, especially if we get the overpass road finished out there. So, And we got two schools. You got the high school, new high school there with 1,400 students right now, and they're letting the contract for the middle school for that area this year. So,
very good points.
a lot of growth.
I just wanted to comment on the commissioner's statement about the grants that you're going for and the legislative request. The legislative request is typically, if that's approved, those funds typically come out of the state transportation fund. So basically, it comes out of Pasco County's pot of available funding, and you get it now versus later. So the project may, if it gets that, may start sooner than you expect. But to offset that amount of money that is $25 million going for that earmark, we would have to reduce something in Pasco County by a similar amount. So just give you a heads up to that.
That won't happen.
Any other questions?
Additional questions?
Yeah, real quick question on 52, and I'm just trying to figure out the mindset, and I know Councilman Starkey brought this up, and trying to be proactive, but, you know, from the Suncoast to 41, we're 6-laning it, which makes sense. It's 6-lane the whole way out to US 19, but from 41 out to the interstate or Belly Brothers, we're only going to 4-lane it. Are you buying the right of way for why you're doing this to get the extra lane, so that way if you have to add it, you don't have to go through all that? I would just think we want 6-lane. It's going to be needed. There's no doubt. The growth is heading that way. I'm just curious, is that part of this right of way acquisition, is buying enough to add 6 lanes?
I don't know the answer to that question. I can only tell you that the PD&E, which was done for establishing the need and purpose of the project, they would look at what the forecast model says in terms of transportation volumes and that sort of thing.
I just assumed it was 6 lanes until I read this.
So they had a reason for not doing 6 lanes, and I can't tell you what that was. And I'm not privy to the right-of-way strategy that they may be working on that corridor. For example, a lot of times we put a road out there that may be 4-lane, but it's expandable to 6 based on the typical section that they used. And I don't know if that's the situation there. I'd have to check on that for you.
Okay, Commissioner Wells, are you talking about from Suncoast to 41 on 52?
Yes, because the other side of it is going to be 6-lane to 41 to the Suncoast. That's going to be 6-lane. From 41 out to Belly Brothers is only going to be 4. You think it would be 6 all the way out. I'm assuming from some of the right-of-way we already have, it looks like it's going to be wide enough, but again, I'm not an engineer. I'd just like to know, you'd think we'd have it 6-lane all the way out.
Councilman Smith?
I was going to ask you a question about the transportation management system, because I remember before we said that our operational system needs some help, I guess, software or advancement there. Are we allocating the money to that, or where does that money come from, I suppose? So that when we put all these roads in with it, we have the head in to take care of it.
Yes. Well, you got a good person in charge over here in Pasco County for the ITS situation, former DOT gentleman. And we met with him at the TAC meeting, and he's just finished up a master network plan for ITS, so he's on top of it. And there's a couple of funding sources. We have state dollars that can fund that. That comes out of the ITS office. We funded many ITS projects with TRIP dollars over in Pinellas County. So there's a variety of funding available. The key is to have a master plan and then stick to it and knock it out.
So we'll have the infrastructure in place to take care of all these systems when the time comes. I mean, and I'm sure it's a continual update on a system like that too, as far as being able to manage the traffic.
Right. I don't know that you guys have a transportation management center.
And I don't know. And the reason I ask that is because you'll roll up to a red light sometimes. And a great example is on 301. I stopped at the first red light there of Centennial. I stopped at the one at Clinton, and then I stopped at the one on up here. And I don't know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, if we can try and manage it better. So.
Mr. Casper, you're going.
So Jack King is the traffic officer. I've been working with him pretty closely. As Brian just said, there is a master plan now. There are certain segments of the corridors that are connected. There are also random standalone signals that are on their own timer, that they're tried to time by time of day, what direction. We are working on a plan, or we'll be implementing the plan to have them all connected. When they're putting the conduit in the ground to put the 144 pair cable in, they're not just putting the one conduit, they're putting two empty conduits, so later they can go back, just drop the box and run the cables through those conduit. So that there is a plan to get the whole region connected in a rational manner. So.
Thank you.
Councilman Starkey, you have
Mr. Wells had a great point. Commissioner Wells, so just so I'm clear, you or Mr. Casper will get back to us at the next MPO meeting regarding the plan for right-of-way acquisition for that stretch that he was talking about, going from 2 to 6 if
yes,
needed? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Is that it?
additional questions?
We're asking for the MPO to endorse the tentative work program.
Is this ERD? Oh, okay.
Let me just, almost
I
forgot.
thought this was just an update. Is this
I'm sorry?
required action today?
This is the tentative work program that's going to become the adopted, so yes,
Okay,
this is
so
not.
just for clarification from staff, it's under our updates, it's not under an action item, so you just want, I just asked for endorsement, or, so what is it we need to do here, just so I understand? Is it just an update?
Ordinarily, the MPOs would endorse the program.
Yep.
And-
Well, let's move to endorsement.
All right, we can make a motion, it's not under that, but we want a motion for endorsement?
But is it not advertised under an
It's
action?
fine.
So we have a deadline of November 28th to have any comments we have from the board or staff to DOT on the work program. You don't have to.
Chairman, what we typically, yesterday at Pinellas, for example, they endorsed the work program contingent of the letter coming, that they would provide any comments to us. That is what they did yesterday, for example.
Okay, but again, going back to, it's not under, I just want to make sure we're doing correctly, it's not under an action item, I want to make sure we're following proper protocol. Looks like we're in consensus to endorse, but I'm not sure as far as an action to make a motion here, I just need some.
Yeah, Commissioner Allen.
Yeah, Madam Chair. This item that was handed out to us, is this part of that plan?
No, that's a different item.
Okay.
Okay. So pretty much I'm sorry, the one piece of paper we have in front of us with these,
It's the PowerPoint?
This
I
is
didn't
not
even see it on the
That's the
PowerPoint.
sidewalk projects, that's the.
This is not part
Right.
of that.
More behind it.
This is separate.
Right.
This is not that.
If the board is not comfortable with that at this time, because the not being listed as an action item, that's fine. Department can go forward, you're not going to hold anything up, so.
So we can also just get consensus that we're endorsing, and then there's this letter that sounds like I'm going to sign as chair to move forward by November 20th, so is there a consensus that we're endorsing? I guess we can do it that way, if that's the,
With the comment to move 41 up. On the record.
That'll work.
All right, do we have nods? Can we do that since
I'll second that.
we haven't, no, we're not second. I think I'm just make sure I'm doing
Just
this right.
nodding, right?
Just nodding. Is there a consensus? We're going to endorse what you've presented to us and there's with comment
We're
to
good.
move up that 41 project with those added things.
So
Is
moved.
that, no, not a motion. I think you,
So consent.
Okay?
so consented. I'm seeing lots of nods, just for those that can't see. I'm seeing lots of nods, so it sounds like you have full endorsement followed by signature of a letter for that endorsement.
That's
Is that
perfect.
correct?
Yeah.
So that we
Now,
follow.
I've got
Just wanna make
the
sure.
Turnpike Authority is here to present their portion of the work program also.
Sure we do. All right.
Good morning. I'm Carol
morning.
Scott. I'm the liaison to Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. And as part of DOT, we own and operate the Suncoast Parkway in this area of the state. And before I dive into what we're planning for the next 5 years, I want to give a quick update to Suncoast Parkway 2. This is where it's going to begin at US 98 and travel 13 miles up to State Road 44 in Citrus County. So that was let for construction a couple weeks ago, and so we'll be seeing construction activity early 2018. It's a 4-year project, so in about 4 years or so, you can get all the way up to 44 from Pasco. In your packet, it's about 7 pages from the back. We do have a document here with a green bar. We have about $50 million in projects for the Suncoast Parkway in the next 5 years. We're looking at widening the Suncoast Parkway from Van Dyke Road in Hillsborough County and going up to State Road 52 in Pasco. The segment from Van Dyke to 54, the design is programmed in 2022, and then from 54 to 52, the design is programmed in 2023. So after that, we'd have construction phases. And then finally, we have the partnership project with Pasco County to add the Ridge Road interchange. We're funding the design and construction in 2019, and we're providing some plan review and that kind of thing, but, you know, Pasco's taking the lead on that project. And that concludes my report. You know, we have one road, so there's not much I can share, unless you have any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Marrone?
It's very encouraging to see the interchange back in the plan.
We've had
13
that
years ago,
boxed
when I
for a
was
long
first
time.
on here, they were kept on complaining that every 5 years, we have to keep on pushing and pushing, and you kept on losing points, et cetera. So to see it here gives me great confidence as we working through the Army Corps that this is reality coming our way, which is fantastic. What I'm a little concerned with, though, and maybe we could look at shifting some of the dollars as we're going, if we're going to build that interchange, we've got the money to go build the first part from Ridge Road all the way to 41, all the way to the Suncoast. We don't have the next connection through. Rather than you even expanding from 52 to 54, my thought would be I'd rather see you take some of the resources and help us build a connection for 41 to connect over. I think it'd be much more beneficial for your ridership, and as well as helping us move that road project along.
When you say connection, what do you mean? You mean build actually Ridge Road?
Help us
Is that what you're saying?
build roads, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's because we're funded with our toll revenue and our bonds that we leverage on the toll revenue. We're not allowed to invest our money off of our system. So it has to be within our right-of-way. So we're not able to, build an arterial that feeds into the road. So we can build the interchange and we can expand Suncoast, but yeah, it's statutorily mandated and also with our bond covenants, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hughes, did you have a comment, sir?
Saw me messing with the microphone. Thank you, Madam Chairman. What's your understanding of the status on the pedestrian crossing at Tower Road across the Suncoast?
Well, the last action I've seen on that is that we did have a conversation with Mr. Casper and Mr. Hartman a couple days ago, and I think they're going to be pursuing conversations with central office. I mean, the decision to go underneath the Suncoast, it does lie with central office. Mm-hmm. So that's all I have.
I know Commissioner Starkey's been watching this closely, and
Mm-hmm.
I was in meetings as much as a year ago to start the conversations with you all, and would be delighted if we could see an actual project emerge on your reports as we go forward on that as well. Is there anything we need to do to make that formally happen with the main office?
What do you mean? Well,
to get the project on your program so that we can actually be working towards
You mean the funding of the?
design first, obviously, and then funding.
Well, I guess first we have to make sure it happens, right? But the funding of a trail crossing, I'm not sure would be our, I mean, that I have to check on, because
Okay.
I haven't heard of us.
There's going to be a part of the trail that's going to be passing under the Suncoast, so it's in your right-of-way. So it's going to have to be part of an acknowledged and approved project as
Right, yeah.
part of the Thruway Authority. And hopefully there's money available as well as in some portion of that to maybe help make that happen. So we're exploring how to get it done. I just want to make sure it doesn't drop off the radar and that we keep it active with your discussions.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Additional questions? Did you have some more for us?
Nope, that was
This
it.
is just an update. Right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next item is item B, is adding rapid staffing to our Tyndall Oliver future TDP scope. Mr. Castro.
Good morning again. I foreshadowed the partnership. We are working, the MPO and public transportation or public transit are working together on the update of the 10-year transit development plan. Part of the plan, they're going to do an onboard survey of riders, and in doing so, they need some help, temporary help, and so this is adding rapid staffing to do that survey, onboard survey. We have worked to make sure it's timing very well with the household survey that Region 7 is doing to look at travel throughout the region. So the two time pretty well together.
Questions? Thank you, sir. Item C, Vision 5456, Phase 2.
I'll just, I'll give a very brief update. We have had a workshop with the task force. They have heard some detailed analysis and seen some detailed analysis of the 12 possible alternatives for intersections at 5441 and 54 Little Road. There's a meeting November 30th, evening of November 30th, that will invite public comment, and they will be looking at narrowing that list of 12 alternatives down to 3 alternatives plus a no build, so a total of 4 to move into Phase 2, Step 2, which is the PD and E that Fdot will be doing on 5441 to figure out if we can at least minimize the negative impacts of traveling public through that intersection.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Commissioner Moore.
So are you getting a consensus now from that group? I mean, is there anybody, are they leaning towards an option at this time?
I wouldn't go that far. We have had actually the task force members resigned, realizing the magnitude of the decision. We have had some other discussions.
Who resigned?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Say again? Donna Collier.
Is that somebody from the western portion? Yeah, sure.
She was an at-large.
Okay.
So.
There was another person?
Oh, yeah. And also Jack Buckley has resigned. So we've had 2, I guess. One of them predates me, sorry. We have also had several of the task force members anchor their position on an alternative, in one case, the no build. So it's going to be an interesting meeting.
Wow.
Interesting.
So moving forward, will those 2 then be, how do those folks get replaced, or how does that work?
Because
So late in the game.
it was too late in the game.
Okay.
So they're moving forward, short 2 members. There's still, we still think we can get enough input to whittle down. You know, it's not a final decision on this is what we need to do. It's which ones need more detailed study going forward. So.
Okay. Questions? Just an update. Okay, these are all just update items. I'm just going down through them quickly. Item D, fiscal year 2018 Transportation Capital Plan. Sidewalk projects. I believe this is the sheet was on our desk today, in the dais.
Oh, no. Do you have the PowerPoint presentation? Look like this. Maybe you don't. But we have it up here, and we can email that to you. So good morning again. I'm Deborah Bolduc. I'm with Engineering Services. And at the last MPO meeting, I said that I would bring back our FY18 Transportation Capital Plan and talk a little bit about the sidewalks. and the multi-path projects that have been added into the program this year. So at the last meeting, I explained the strategy that we use to bring some of these unfunded projects into the program. And we have been adding some sidewalks into the program with existing capital projects. And if we have a new project that we're adding, we try to include a sidewalk if it doesn't require a lot of right-of-way, if we have the funding available, and depending on the location of that sidewalk. And we also have been trying to add at least 1 to 2 new sidewalks every year. And we use our second local option gas tax to fund those. And then we also look to DOT for funding. So you will have seen in Brian's presentation that they are committing funding for a future year for a couple of these projects. In talking with DOT, that funding will remain, but we will identify new projects that would be used, that we would use for that funding. So in this year. So we have design funded in FY18 for the Ridge Road, what will be a multi-use path project. And that extends from, I guess that's not working. That extends from Rowan Road over to just west of Little Road. And we've got construction funded in FY19, and that was ranked as #1 on the TA priority list of projects. Congress Street Sidewalk was ranked #2 on that priority list. That is also funded in our program this year. We have design funded in 18 and construction in 19, and that extends from Lomond Avenue up to Ridge Road. Miles Stretch Drive Sidewalk, that was previously ranked. This phase from Arcadia to Grand is actually the second phase of the Miles Stretch Sidewalk. We built this section from US 19 to Arcadia, and we're actually getting ready to bring, purchasing is bringing a contract to the board on November 28th to start construction for this segment. The 20th Street Sidewalk, this is from Henry to County Road 54. This is funded by DOT, and the design is in 18 with construction in fiscal year 20. And we are working on a task order now to bring to the board to start the design for this one. Majestic Boulevard Sidewalk, that was a previous priority. We are getting ready to start construction. We issued a notice to proceed on November 2nd for this project. It extends from 52 to Clock Tower Parkway. We had another project in the priority list. It was some pedestrian safety improvements on River Crossing Boulevard. We have a project that is going to construction at Stark Union Lico intersection, and we have included those bike ped safety improvements as part of that construction project. And that contract for those improvements will be going to the board on November 28th. Sweet Bay Court Sidewalk is a Safe Routes to Schools project, and that extends that extends to the school from Tanglewood, and that is funded in 18 for design and fiscal year 20 for construction. We also have looked at that priority list to identify potential candidates for Safe Routes to Schools funding, because that's a separate pot of money now. So there are 5 projects that we're looking at submitting applications for, grant applications. That includes Fort King Road, 17th Street Sidewalk, Ranch Road, Zimmerman, Mitchell Boulevard multi-use path from Trinity Oaks to Seven Springs, and some improvements on Ballantrae Boulevard. So we do use that priority list to identify these new projects that we add to the program, and then if we have capital projects, we try to pull in the projects as best we can based on location and funding.
This is an update. Are there questions? Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Mariano.
Hey, Debbie. So tell me, these priorities go over years to years to years. People pay taxes across this whole county evenly through all these years. And when I look at Zimmerman and I look at Ranch Road, they've been on this list for 13 years now. They're right around 17, 18. That's where they've been for 13 years. There's got to be some way to move these projects up, as opposed to just jumping project after project over them. This bit of trying to go with the state route to school system, you've got a road even closer to these two roads, to Gulf Islands Elementary School along Meadow, that doesn't have a sidewalk. If you're really going to go sidewalk improvements, that would even make more sense. But there's got to be a way with this formula, which we've been hearing about for years, to get these projects to go. They shouldn't just, because other things are stepping up, to jump over them. There's got to be that line that flows. Just like DOT says, you pull something out, something's going to step back. I mean, it's just not right for these neighborhoods not to get funding for these sidewalks to get them done. And I'm just going to tell you, it's very disappointing to see it just not change year after year after year. And we get people out there walking in busy streets out to US 19, they can't connect.
Do you want to respond?
Well, okay. Well,
maybe there's help coming here.
The
from
TA
staff.
fund, the TA funding and the Safe Routes to Schools funding at one time was separate. So we would compete for projects separately. The TA funding was then merged together. All the projects rolled onto one list. So now what's happening is there's a different pot of money for Safe Routes to Schools. So we are actively pursuing grants for those projects that are listed that were listed up there, Zimmerman and Ranch. We are trying to add projects every year based on funding availability, and we're trying to include them when we have a capital project. So, you know, if you change the ranking, that would impact the next project that we would look at for funding in the capital plan if it wasn't funded through a grant. So if you wanted to elevate those higher, you could choose to do that.
Well, like I say, to the board,
No,
these projects have been there all these years, haven't moved, other things jumped ahead of them.
Why even have them there if they don't move in 13 years? I mean, how long have we been evaluating these two projects through Safe Route to Schools? I mean, I appreciate your answer, but it's not a good enough answer. I agree with Commissioner Mariano. These are, I know what areas he's talking about. They're not safe streets for kids to be walking on. There's an elementary school back there. They need safe access to schools, and it's been on this list in the same spot for, what, 13 years, you said? It's unacceptable.
I'd have to confirm with MPO. I'm not sure how long they've been on the list.
I mean, the handout that you all have, Commissioner Mariano, the top 4 on there are funded this year in the 5-year work program. So next year, when we bring the priority list before you, those 4 would be knocked off. So, I mean, automatically, projects will move up.
But look at the bright yellow sheet. You've got new project, new project, new project. So you're already jumping over them when you're not taking the priorities to here. Now, it just doesn't make sense to just keep on pushing it back.
Well, wouldn't that be helpful too if we had, you're saying 13, you know, if we knew the time, because we're only seeing we're seeing priorities changing from year to year, but if we had kind of some kind of time frame, because I think probably what we would do too if we knew it was on for that length of time, without constantly moving and displacing someone, because I think we could all have a beef or say, hey, our street keeps getting moved to a different location on this list. But go ahead, sir.
I think what might be good is a segue to the next item also, which is TA funding, which is interwoven with that, because one of the issues with something staying on for 13 years is not actually getting money to move projects forward, so. Well,
let me say this. Years ago, we had program maintenance money that went around for different projects. And in those program maintenance years, we used to say, every district was maybe like $3 or $4 million, whatever the number was. And you could pick, the commission could pick where they wanted to see their focus to. Evenly spread out, evenly balanced between population, taxes being paid. I'm going to tell you clearly, the representation that I'm seeing here is not happening to those poor people that aren't going to come to meetings because they're all working, or seniors that are just now 80 years old that aren't going to be able to go out there. They're not getting their voice heard, and they're certainly not getting their balance done with the funding. And again, for 13 years for these 2 little sidewalks to be on there, where they're connecting both to US 19 and 52 with the school in between them, it's just not a safe environment. And for it to get pushed on because something else becomes hot that next year and the next year and the next year, for 13 years is unacceptable. I'm delighted with this board looking at that project under US 19 to connect Newport Richey and Port Richey for the walkway. That's great. That was on there over 13 years ago too. I mean, we just got to balance this out a little bit. Somehow they got to make a way.
So what I just heard is you would like to see at-risk populations be added as a evaluation criteria, prioritizing criteria, because that would cover low-income, elderly, and school children, and that would make projects in those areas higher priority.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Their voice isn't heard. I mean, he's absolutely right. You should take Mr. Casper to these streets and show him what you're talking about. It's low-income areas that are not safe for kids to walk. And if it was in different areas of the county, I'm not going to go east versus west. We're talking about projects in Ballantrae, which is one of the most beautiful subdivisions you can drive through. We're talking about doing improvements to that area already. In 13 years, we've had a low-income neighborhood with an elementary school in it where kids can't walk safe to school. That's a serious, serious problem. I mean, you can make excuse after excuse. It's been on here for 13 years and nothing's happened. I'm not pointing fingers at any department, where we get the funds from. The bottom line is it has to happen.
Right.
And I'll tell you, Craig, community development block grants that are out there, Palm Terrace, where Ranch Road is qualifying. I would think that East Brown Acres is right between Zimmerman 2, that would qualify. Why these projects aren't being drilled into to try to reach out to that funding as well?
And actually, there's a new federal program that allows, federal transportation money needs a match. They just changed the rules to allow federal money to match federal money if it's CDBG matching transportation in low-income areas. So that is a doubly eligible area then for both CDBG and the TA funds. We talked to Fdot about why we have not been, and I'll just, I guess if it's okay with Madam Chair, I'll move on to the chart because
you think that will help clarify some of this, but I'm hearing, yes, we're hearing.
Well, it's getting money. What it comes down to is we need to get money for more projects, and we need to get these projects funded. We're going to do that by getting more of the TA money.
No, it's not just that. You're taking projects and jumping them in front of other projects already on the list.
Well, and I think what's happening is we're only seeing, and you're citing, and I agree with what you say, there's projects that have been on here for decades or a decade or more. So when we do reevaluate, which we're going to do, it sounds, in a couple months, if knowing that, I think that if this board sees that in addition to moving other priorities, that would influence our priority listing perhaps, as well as applying for other funding. Does that make sense? Because you're only seeing it within a very short time frame, but if we know that
so would you like a history?
And it's been on, it should move up regardless of.
Would you like a retrospective of how the board's prioritized projects and what's
well,
been
only if
moving
we
and
know
out?
that. Now, obviously, it's as a board. It's a board decision, but
Right.
clearly hearing, concern here of some projects, and we all, I know, keep moving something in front of something else because we all agree that we all have impoverished and school children and things that need to happen, but knowing that certain projects been on for a very, very long period of time. Now, you're saying, and I think you want to jump to your TA funding, that may help. And there may be other pots of money that are available that may be able to get this project completed rather than using the pot of money we traditionally have used.
And Madam Chair, I mean,
Yes, sir.
looking at project number 8, the Boyette Sidewalk, no doubt there's a need there as well, but maybe we have this thing called transportation mobility funding. Maybe that should be paying for it. The mobility funds can now pay for sidewalks. Didn't used to be the case, it was only roads. These growth areas that need it, let's go look at taking that pot of money instead of taking from this, where stuff gets pushed back.
And I think that's a good point. And I think that's on other projects too. We've talked about whether it's, I think it's Commissioner Starkey were here, like the trail. There's pots of money that we have not looked at or looked at clearly to make sure that there's available or accessible for us to be using for some of these. So with that, do you want to start to talk about the TA and see if that is something that might, if that is something, or we certainly encourage you to look at other means for moving this up so that we can accomplish what's on this list before all of us are 6 feet under, as they say.
Well, as requested last month.
Let's try that. Let's see what you have there, and then we'll continue to have that in interest of time moving along.
I'm talking to the graph or the infographic. As requested last month, staff got with Fdot and looked at how much funding Pasco County has gotten and how it compares with our neighboring counties, Hillsborough, Hernando, and Pinellas. What we found out is we are getting less money over time, over 20 years. This is a 20-year snapshot. We're getting about, under funding ratio, if every citizen, money was given based on population, the ratio would be 1.0. So we're getting about half the funding per person as if there was an even distribution, whereas looking at Hernando, they're getting about 2.5 times on a per-person basis. $20 per is about what we're getting over the 20 years, about $1 per person per year. It's a consistent trend. You can look at the circle. We're about 17% of the population. We're getting about between 7.5% and 8% of the money. The bottom chart, bar chart, shows how much money Pasco is the black color across all the items. If not for 2012, Hillsborough County would also be woefully underfunded. That windfall they got in 2012 helped them on their numbers. In talking with Fdot, what it is our applications have been either incomplete or not competitive, because among the things that we need to do, we need to have a good engineering plan, and we need to control the right-of-way. The projects that we've been submitting on, we haven't had control of the right-of-way already, and we haven't had the projects designed. Hernando has been very good about that, where they got the plan, they buy the right-of-way, so all they need is the money to go. So that's the direction we need to be working to do our applications.
So basically, the county's not filling out grant applications, either enough of them or not filling them out properly? And
we
have
didn't
not
get into
been for some
numbers.
time?
It was more completeness of the applications.
Well, I would say, I'm sure that everyone up here would agree, that's a serious problem. We're up here like bickering over, what projects get funded. We're not getting the funding. If we got more funding, it'd be much easier to make these decisions.
Things would be moving through.
As we need to prioritize that, right? I'm not trying to tell the county their job by any means, but as a city, when I first came on city council, we weren't filling out grant applications. We weren't asking for the money. And then we hired someone to do that and do it properly, and the results have been astounding.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could just respond a little bit. There's a slight, I think, misunderstanding. When he says a complete application, it doesn't mean that you filled out the form correctly or didn't apply. It means that the criteria that are used to award a grant includes preservation of right-of-way and engineering completed. So what's not happening is projects we want to do, which are on our wish list, are not advanced because there's inadequate staff and inadequate resources, dollars, to do right-of-way acquisition and engineering by the county in advance to prepare the project to be eligible for state grant funding. So it's a combination. It's not that people aren't doing their job or not completing their applications. It's that we can't get, for limitations of resources, we're not able to get through the necessary steps to prepare the project to be complete under the state's criteria for funding.
So how do we fix that?
Yeah, I was going to, well, just echoing what he said, what I'm hearing, it's staffing. You're talking about 2 positions, or, that's what I heard, that are people that are not available to go out to make those applications complete for funding that's available. That's kind of a sad excuse.
No, it's not people. It's dollars for right-of-way acquisition and engineering services. It's costs of preparing projects to that stage of the development of the project. And that's a cost issue. We have limitations in terms of dollars being available.
Well, Hernando's got it down pretty good, it looks like.
Hernando has
Yes,
made
they do.
decisions to
They
prioritize what they want to achieve, and they've put dollars towards getting their applications together, making right-of-way acquisition, and getting the engineering done on projects in order to get them ready for state funding.
Well, Madam Chair, let me jump in a little here too. I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but what Mr. Hughes is saying is that, there's funds that are used in some projects, there's funds used in others. So we have to prioritize, this county commission, we prioritize where the funds go, all right? So how much money is available for right-of-way acquisition? How many millions of dollars are sitting aside for right-of-way acquisition? There's not millions of dollars in a bag out back sitting there for miles and miles of right-of-way acquisition. So where does that money come from?
That's
right?
the question, exactly.
Exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So.
But if we were one step ahead of the game and knew that these resources or these grants or potential funding was, and knew that, again, being proactive, wouldn't that help to make the decision for?
So again, this is, like you said, it's been going on for 13 years and stuff, so that's, my opinion is, and I know Mr. Mariano is obviously has been here a lot longer than I have, but maybe the right way to do it is don't put them on the list unless we have the funds to do the right-of-way acquisition, right? That's
That's part of the funding decision, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Are there some that don't require right?
so that way people aren't thinking it's coming, you're waiting.
Actually, that,
Councilman?
there could be, like, the reason that like the Boyett sidewalk, maybe that was, the right-of-way was set aside by the developer, so it is available there. So that, maybe that moves it up, and whereas the other requires, I honestly, I'm purely speculating right now on that, because I
Who's their
don't,
neighborhood? You're having to buy the right away.
so.
But you know, if you approached a neighborhood that had a problem, you would think that they would be willing to go ahead and help with
Donate
the
it.
right of way, you know? And I'd like to know how many of them we do require right of way on, you know? I mean,
And then, yeah, because we're only seeing a snapshot here without all of the.
People donate
without
right away for sidewalks, right?
Yeah, Commissioner-
If I could.
Commissioner Mariano.
When you go back to the early days when developments were coming in, they either had a sidewalk in, they didn't have a sidewalk in. To try to go back now and try to break every single person down and get them to give the right of way, well, if this guy's going to give the right of way, but this guy's not going to give the right of way, you get to that battle. So that is something that's not easy to just go fix. Does that mean they should go back down the list to nothing? No. When I look at how we maybe allocate our resources, maybe we do need to take a closer look. We had the 54, 56 interchange we're going to go put in. The toll road was going to go in. It was going to cost $15 to go from one side to the other county. They're going to raise the bridge up, and people get to see the neighborhoods. They're going to see this towering bridge going across the neighborhood, splitting it up. The businesses down low are going to be worried if we're going to be treated just like Pinellas County, where they all went out of business. There was a major, major step back on that. Thousands of people said no, no, no. And what do we go do? Now we're going to study it again. I mean, when we look at resources, where we go put them, let's go find out where we can make improvements. If I don't have the money to do the engineering, which seems to be number one, and I'm going to go do public meeting after public meeting after public meeting, am I better off getting an engineer, or am I going to have more public meetings where people can just go sign the list here, I was here, and here's my input? I mean, it is coming down to priorities. I would like to know a little bit about how Hernando County did so well getting so much money. And if you go up north to Brooksville, you look at 41, it's like 6-lane highway, it's been that way for 20 years. Look down south, we get more people, and how many lanes we got. So evidently something's happening somewhere where we're still not getting our split, and it goes back many, many years. But Hernando County, it was going to be a 40-60 split on that road. They put in somehow $128 million. I don't know if it was all their money or DOT. And I will tell you, it was a little embarrassing being up in Heritage Pines, watching how much money they've spent over the past 13 years on that county line road compared to what we've done, and how it's like, what's Pasco County doing? And, you know, the folks up there, as you've heard me mention before, that county line road is going to be an issue coming up. Why aren't we getting more of our share to go up there? Now, being that's a joint project, maybe we can look at, you know, that should be directed for us a little bit.
I would urge the county, and I'm no accountant by any means, but it looks like where the county as a whole is missing out on a tremendous amount of funding because there's not enough, I know money doesn't grow on trees, but there's not enough money budgeted for right-of-way acquisition and engineering. Is that you correct? Is that basically what you said?
That's the component for why we're not eligible.
That's a component for why we're not qualifying. Yeah. So I think the county, I'm on the county commission. I have no desire to be on the county commission, but I know you just went through budget process. But for this upcoming budget process, which in my opinion is normally a process that should be happening throughout the year, not just, you know, I don't know how y'all do your budget, but something that you really, really need to look into as far as budgeting for next year and years to come, because the bottom line is the county's missing out on a tremendous amount of money because there's not money budgeted for those two items. Am I correct there, or incorrect?
That's what sounds like what we're hearing.
What two items are we speaking of?
Engineering and right-of-way acquisition.
So I would just like to add one thing. When it comes to some of these sidewalks where we need some additional right-of-way, oftentimes it's because of the need for drainage. We need some additional drainage. So in a lot of these projects, we may already have the right-of-way to put in the sidewalk, but the issue then becomes the drainage. So I think that we need to be, I agree with everything you're saying, we have to be very proactive and inundate DOT with as many applications as we can put in there, whether it's for TA. So I hear. So we just have to dedicate the time, and if it's putting in 30 applications, then we put in 30 applications. Whether it's through Safe Routes to Schools, whether it's through the TA funding, whatever opportunity we have available. So this is something that we can work with MPO on, and we just hit the list, and we shake it out and see where we need to do a little bit of extra work because we may need right-of-way for drainage, and we just get it done. So I hear everything you're saying, and it's a matter of...
And I hope Mr. Biles hears everything we're saying. Does he not come to MPO meetings?
He's here sometimes.
Sometimes, because I remember Ms. Baker was here pretty much every meeting, and I think he's a county administrator. We're talking about some very important issues here with the county. So I'm sure we'll
So
read
the
the
ones
minutes or
that
watch
are
the
on the
meetings,
safe
but-
routes, engineering has already started doing the analysis on that. So those applications are going to be going into DOT in the next couple months. We can get with MPO, and we can just get it done.
Commissioner
Question.
Adam.
When we did the Beacon Woods sidewalk project from years ago, where Walmart come up and gave us 150 grand, we went around and the county put in the other half. They talked about drainage initially, but when they looked at the drainage, they said, okay, it's a clean sidewalk, there's no runoff that you have to worry about, it's de minimis. We didn't have to do anything for drainage around that whole 3-mile circle. So I'm a little confused how we can have drainage issues on sidewalks.
You are talking about Majestic. See, every location is
Clock
different.
Tower Parkway.
Talking about Clock Tower Parkway?
Never had to do any drainage.
I'm not familiar with the project. I think that was done when Jim Midman was here. And there was right away, and I don't think they had a drainage issue. Because they did put sidewalk on one side of the road around Clock Tower.
Correct.
So I don't think it was a drainage issue. And a lot of these might not have a drainage issue. A lot of these may have right away that's available. But we have to look at them all and evaluate what we can get out quickly because we don't need to get any right away for the drainage, and then some that may take a little bit of work. So everyone's a little unique.
One other deal as well, as far as like right-of-way, Hicks Road project that we had just done, we actually did a hearing at Hudson High School, talked about it a few years back, and we said, we're going to go out and we're going to reach out to the people, instead of having to go through the regular DOT process that's so expensive, et cetera, where the lawyers make a fortune. We actually went to the neighborhood, and the county commissioner's done this, and it's worked out very well. We went up and down the list and said, look, we're going to give you X number of dollars. We would normally get this, and you have to go fight for it. There was like a bonus that was in there for them. That bonus cut the right-of-way acquisition cost down about 2/3. And that project's almost ready to go now, even with working with the commercial people a little bit tougher. So maybe we just need to be a little more creative about how to go do these projects through. And maybe I need to go do a workshop at Zimmerman and Ranch Road to say, what would it take to get the right-of-way, if that's one of these hold-up issues that are out there, which I'm happy to go do.
So with Hicks Road, we did, and Commissioner Mariano is absolutely correct, and he was very proactive. We did do a study. It did require a study because we had to take property. So every time you do to take property, you have to evaluate it. And then the actual right-of-way acquisition time was cut in half, and the right-of-way costs were cut by 2/3. So it was a really good process, and we're starting to use that on more and more small projects, and it includes an incentive for people to sell the right-of-way, directly to the real estate staff. And it was very, very effective. That was the first time we'd done that, and it was extremely effective, and that should be going out to construction very soon, first part of the year, I think.
Now that we're talking about this, so now that's a small amount of money to go engineer it, and now you can go make the next move. We can actually present it to the people and find out the cooperation you get.
So for the year, the Ranch and Zimmerman, I don't believe there's any right-of-way needs. So they're looking at that. So it's not an issue of right-of-way needed for those two. We're working on getting the applications into DOT for funding. So everyone's a little bit different, but a lot of them don't need right-of-way. For those that do, we need to do a little bit more work. But it's a matter of getting rid of this list, getting applications in.
Mayor Mess.
We got to do it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to move out, so, because
Okay.
it sounds like what I'm hearing, every project is unique, so in the interest of time, Mayor Masson, let's keep going down the list.
Very quickly,
Go ahead, sir.
who am I speaking with?
Oh, was that a Debbie question, or I guess maybe it's still a joint question?
Anybody would be fine. How does the county, I'm the neophyte on this group. How does the county go about applying? Do we have a group of people or one, or are you all spread?
Actually, if we can sort of start the segue to the next item, Rick he is our active transportation, and he's got some applications.
Thank you for that question. Richard Hartman again. And I wanted to update the board about our trails projects and about some of the funding applications and opportunities we have coming down the pipe very shortly. So when we're talking about funding, one of the things that Craig has just pointed out is perhaps a lack of applications or a lack of eligible applications. And that is one of the things I've seen where we've had site control. We had an application turned down because we did not have demonstrate full site control for a trail amenity, a trailhead that we applied for. So I just want to let you know we have the Sun Trail application that we'll be applying for. That is due December 15th. And what we've worked with staff, with Debbie's staff, to look at are a couple routes. We're looking at Trinity Boulevard, continuing from Little Road to State Road 54 as one application. And this is part of the Orange Belt Trail application that was done, and FDOT has been very helpful in identifying what we need to apply for are segments, small segments, not entire trails. So we're applying it, prioritizing by Little to State Road 54, and then on the north side of State Road 54, running from Hart Pine Avenue at Starkey Ranch to Ballantrae. So we have that sidewalk, we have a school at Ballantrae. So those are both very doable endpoints, which is one of the key factors they look at. Another one is the Recreational Trails application that is also due December 15th. Thank you, whoever put those two together. It has a $200,000 limit for non-motorized travel. That is a matching fund. And so what we're looking at, much to my surprise, $200,000 doesn't go as far as one might think. So we're looking at doing trail amenities, trailheads and amenities, bike repair stations, wayfinding and such along the Starkey Gap Trail. So I hope Commissioner Starkey will listen to a recording of this. And part of our match on that program will come, there's a traffic signal that is going to be needed for crossing Trinity as part of the Gap Trail, but we will be talking to FDOT and hoping that that can be used as part of our match for that application. Yes?
My question was, though, who finds the project and decides to apply for the application?
Can I jump in on that, Rick?
Yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, that's what I thought your question was, if we jumped into trails on you. The answer is that there are a number of people in a team, a pretty wide team. We've got folks in engineering services, we've got people in the MPO staff, we've got long-range planning staff, we've got project managers occasionally. We actually have a county grant manager who is someone who is also looking and applying. We are all in our day-to-day business looking for notices from the various funding agencies in our areas of specialty, but also more broadly in the area of what we're trying to do. So there's this kind of catch every opportunity process that goes on across the entire range of professional staff in the county. When an opportunity is identified, when we know that there's a grant that we're going after, we want to pursue, it's usually then directed to a specific project lead of some kind. Some cases, when it's trails, it goes to Rick Hartman. When it's MPO, generally, it goes to Craig Casper. When there's a specific engineering project or right-of-way, we very often will get Debbie involved at the engineering services side of the pot. There's other departments and utilities. We have traffic operations that get into ITS funding. There's a number of different operational segments of the county's government staff who are touching different parts of these grant sources.
But Mr. Hughes doesn't also work conversely, and I think from a city's perspective, if there's something, because I know from Dade City's point, if we see something and we know a need, then we've often touched base with Fdot or to MPO.
We reach out and ask.
Reach out and go, hey, we have it, does it fit into one of these umbrella things that you've seen? So I don't know if that helps answer that.
It seems to me that you're spread far afield with this, and I believe the commissioner brought up preparedness of application. If you're working with all these people across all these boards, it seems like falling through the cracks would be a really easy thing to do. And I'll just give you a real quick Port Richey thing. We decided we need to raise the homes that were on the ground up. We've hired a couple of ladies that work for FEMA, and I think we got 28 houses raised in 2-3 years. Maybe you should form some sort of central, we need to do it, and somebody to follow up that it gets done. So it goes to transportation, it goes to engineering, it goes to other places. It just seems like an easy way to fall through the cracks.
Well, what you just described is what we do. We do assign a specific task leader when we identify a need, and they pursue grant funding source, and then they're tasked with actually making the applications and getting the funding. So it does, when a project is identified, it then locks into a specific responsible project manager.
Commissioner Mariano? Oh, I'm sorry, you done?
Just a little. If preparedness of application has been some of the problem, then that is not even excusable. Whoever is in charge of that gets a demerit, or what is
I think we relayed that message. I think you got the overall sentiment of the board. I think there's some disappointment that Mr. Biles is not here, so hopefully this message by way of tape or the assigned individual.
I'm here representing Mr. Biles. I'll be back talking to him about your concern.
Yeah. We are a proactive board. We want to be creative. There's things that have done. So I think in the interest of time, because I'm getting the stares and the looks, Commissioner Mariano, and then we can finish up this agenda.
Just a quick thing, as far as worried about projects, what they really cost, et cetera. When I look at Zimmerman project being 1.2 million, I have a hard time believing that. Part of the sidewalk's already there. I know I've got the right of way all the way down from Ranch Road, from that point going up all the way until the sidewalk joins it. There's another segment to that. There's absolutely no way that can cost anywhere near that amount of money. So I'd like to get a look at that, especially if we don't have a right-of-way issue. And as far as the Martha Avenue, 618 grand, that may be a little bit tougher because you might have to move some poles, but I really want to get those figures brought back to us. And I wouldn't mind a one-on-one meeting with you, Mr. Casper, to look at both of those things first before it comes back to the board. Okay. So we study it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Trail updates? Any more there?
I'm
You
good.
All right. On to item G. Is there any update needed for that of the moving of the Cody River project? Just going down this list, Mr. Casper.
Okay. Manny, can you? Yep. So we've been taking a look at the Cody River Bridge. Among some of the information we found, we have a better cost estimate. The bridge itself, from where it would depart, I guess, land, go around underneath the bridge and back up, that's about a $2.5 million project because of river issues. What we don't know is exactly what goes on beyond that. So we need a study or a clarification of where it connects to things. Had a brief meeting with an architect whose name is escaping me right now.
Muse.
Yes.
Bill Muse.
Yep. And we'd like to get with him to flesh out more details of what the project is so that we can then get it into a design, get it further into the process like we were just talking about, where get engineering design done, figure out what the right-of-way needs or easements we are to move that through. The project is listed and right now as, it's the one in blue, so it is I think it's 13th project, but that is not indicative of of where it is, because there are at least 4, if not 6 projects that will be coming off this that will compress it, move it up. Also, some of the criteria, I don't think the economic development catalyst projectness of that project was reflected in the initial evaluation. So that is something that is on our to-do list now, is to flesh out more details about what the project is so we can get application. I believe it's one of them we're looking at applying for.
Yes, recreational trails application due March 31st.
So we have a March deadline for rec trails that we can see at least how far we can get through this process. with that.
Is there a way we can help you? This has been on the board, well, on and off for 2 decades.
Yeah, I actually found an economic development, or actually Rick found it and gave it to me.
I think we have the old plans and all that. Would that be helpful?
It would be extremely helpful.
Okay.
Councilman Starkey, I know you were waiting to speak. So.
Yeah, just a couple of quick points. I'm very, very excited about the discussion in general, but I'm happy to see the trail coming in through Bailey. Is that, how do you pronounce it, Commissioner Wells? Bailey Avenue, right in front of
Yeah,
Crabtree?
Bailey, yep.
Bailey Avenue rather than up 19 on the east side. But I mentioned this at the workshop we had with the 2 municipalities and the county commission. There's a parcel of land right there with a welding shop on it right now that's for sale. I really think the county should, or the MPO board, or whoever, wherever the funding comes from, should look into that site acquisition. I can just see crushed limestone with a nice parking lot for golf carts, and talk about economic development opportunities. I'm telling you, people love their golf carts in Port Richey, Newport Richey, and coming from Newport Richey to the waterfront district, if right there, I think it's a great building there on the north side of the road. If we could possibly look into acquiring that land, putting a nice little parking lot type for golf carts, make it tropical, crushed limestone, shouldn't be too expensive. I just think that would be a great addition to the project, rather than someone just having to walk from downtown and have nowhere to leave a golf cart or any type of, I don't know, transportation device other than a car.
Is that city or county?
That's the city of Port Richey. I'm not sure.
Not going to be the county's not going to buy land if it's city property.
Is that change? Is that
the county owns land in Port?
I know, but we're not going to make a land acquisition or buy out a house. I mean, you'd have to figure out what fund that, again, coming down to what funding that would come out of.
It's a commercial business right now. It's privately owned. I'm not sure what funding it would come from. I'm just making the point that it would really bring the project together rather than just having a trail going underneath the bridge. It would help bring people from downtown Newport Richey to the waterfront and vice versa.
Okay.
Might be something all three of us could look into, all three, two
together.
cities in the
Absolutely.
county.
Absolutely. The city of Newport Richey would definitely, not to speak for everybody, but we're very excited about the project, and we'd be very, very in tune to looking into sharing the cost.
Commissioner Mariano.
Yes, and right down from that area, you've got the DMA site for the dredging opportunity that's going on right now. That dredging material could be your base coming forward for the whole area, right in there. And the more dredge material we use elsewhere, that DMA site gets extended, less permitting for other dredging opportunities up and down the coast later on. If we can put it to use right there, you got no trucking costs, hauling right over, and you could create it. So I think it's something we definitely should do. If you want to make a motion that we would want to ask the county commission to go consider it, in the cities, we can send a letter from the MPO.
As far as the land acquisition?
Look at doing that land acquisition.
It's for sale right now.
So,
We should move quickly, I can say that. I've had two people.
The funding mechanism was a discussion we would have to have. I don't know, and Chris, you can check when you talk to David Goldstein again, when we talked about penny money, if economic development money, if that could be used. I know there was a little difficulty in the quote sidewalk project for whatever reason. I don't remember his reasoning behind that, but maybe on a land acquisition that can be focused on economic development.
There's actually a challenge, the federal challenge in the constitutional issue under Kelo case, where you can't go out and acquire property solely for economic benefit for a non-public purpose. If this is related enough directly to the trail.
But it's a public purpose.
If it's related to the trail and is a public purpose, we may be able to find a way to do
So
it.
can we?
But finding the money is the real challenge for that.
Well,
So can we get those questions answered and bring that back at the next, rather than, I mean, it's clearly, it's happening, you're bringing us an update,
We'll
just
look
find
into
out
that,
if that's an option, especially if we're
and
talking
then
about different.
The cities can talk to their fellow members.
And
see if
just
there's
bring it
an
back to
interest
us,
in
there's clearly a.
putting some funding towards that.
I don't even know what the cost of land is currently, I just know it's for sale.
So can you do that and get back to us
I'm
and
sure
bring us an
that
update next
Newport
time?
Richey and Port Richey could put in some.
I think that's what we're talking about is just getting the city, the county.
How do we move this forward quickly? Meeting, something?
I'll have Ms. Manager reach out to Mr. Rouse.
Thank you.
All right.
Madam Chair, if I could?
Yes, sir.
I want to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
And I've seen many times where things get discussed, then opportunities tend to go away. So I'm going to make a motion that the MPO supports the City of Port Richey, the City of Newport Richey, and the County Commission take a look at that property and try to enter into a way to try to find a way to acquire it.
There's a motion on the table.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So the chairman will
there-
send a letter?
Yep, and then
Thank you.
get that, we'll do that, so now it's very clear what the desire is here. Sir, all right, let's move on. I think we're at item H, and then should be wrapping up here.
Yep.
Pasco?
We've been asked about the light 54 across Bexley Ranch. It is item and that is will be funded by developer funding. The county is looking at accelerating that, fronting the money and then a reimbursement sort of thing. My understanding is construction on that will start in about 6 months, hopefully completion in a year.
Madam Chair, real quick, and we can talk later about it, but since we're talking about lights on 54, Success Drive and 54, I know it has already been fully funded by, I believe, the Mitchells. I thought it was going to be put up this year. I'm just curious on when, because it's a terrible
I'll find out.
intersection where they're pulling out. So thank you.
I'll send out an email when I get that information.
Thank you, sir. What else? We have other,
Looks good to me.
That's it.
we good? Other business? Anything there? You see, we got something on the Tampa Bay next, the regional transit, and this is the portion of the meeting for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the MPO board? Seeing none, we'll adjourn this meeting at 1:52. Thank you all.
This is perfect.
Go ahead.